The morning he cleared out my office, nothing felt unstable yet. The lights came on the same way they always did, half a second delay, a faint hum before settling. I unlocked my computer, set my bag down, and scanned the whiteboard where I'd left notes for myself, inspection follow-ups, vendor callbacks, the reminder to rerun the pressure logs before noon. Ordinary, predictable, quietly held together. I noticed the box only when I reached for my notebook and felt cardboard instead of laminate. Someone had already packed my desk. My uncle stood in the doorway, jacket still on, keys in hand. He had the careful posture he used when he wanted to seem casual about a decision that was already final. "It's temporary," he said, before I asked anything. "You'll understand. Just be flexible." Behind him, my cousin, his son, hovered with the polite uncertainty of someone stepping into a space they didn't earn but were told belonged to them now. I didn't argue. I didn't ask where I was supposed to work. I looked at the box-framed certification, annotated binders, the spare charger I kept because the building's outlets were unreliable. Evidence of time, not decoration. I nodded once. Sure. I was not cheerful, not bitter, just accurate. Flexibility had always been my unspoken role. I fixed what didn't escalate. I translated inspector language into internal checklists. I remembered which valve lagged in winter and which report needed footnotes to survive scrutiny. None of it was glamorous enough to defend. My uncle smiled, relieved. He clapped my shoulder lightly as if he'd handled something well. "I knew you'd get it." I carried the box out myself. No announcement. No email blast. I left the building without the kind of noise people expect when someone is pushed aside. Silence has its own integrity. By 11, the first thing went wrong. It was minor, a documentation request that should have taken 5 minutes. The inspector wanted clarification on a variance that technically wasn't a violation if contextualized properly. I knew which file, which paragraph, which historical note made it disappear. Instead, it bounced. I didn't know it at the time. I was across town, phone face down, eating lunch slower than usual. When you leave a place where you've been absorbing pressure, your body doesn't know what to do with the sudden absence of it. By noon, the request escalated. By 1, a secondary system flagged inconsistencies because the clarification hadn't been logged. That triggered a procedural review. Perfectly reasonable. Perfectly avoidable. By 2, the inspectors were no longer patient. They weren't angry yet, they were confused. Confusion is worse. It makes people dig. My uncle called the first time at 2017. I let it ring. The second call came before the voicemail finished recording. I still didn't answer. This wasn't punishment. It was alignment. I'd been told to be flexible. So I was flexible enough to be absent. At the office, my cousin tried to help. I know because later someone told me he pulled up my old folders and couldn't tell which versions were live and which were archived. He wasn't incompetent. He was just new, and new doesn't survive scrutiny without scaffolding. At 2046, an inspector requested a named point of contact. Not a department. A person. Who owns this process? No one could answer cleanly. At 30:03, the call came from a number I recognized but hadn't seen in months, the Regional Compliance Office. That meant the issue had crossed an invisible line. When authority appears, it doesn't raise its voice. It narrows its questions. My phone buzzed again. Again. I answered on the 6th call. "I need you," my uncle said immediately. The tone had shifted. Less managerial, more exposed. "They're asking things only you know. This is getting out of hand." I looked at the sky through the cafe window. The day was ordinary. That felt important. "I don't work there anymore," I said. Not accusatory, just factual. "You do," he said quickly. This is temporary. You know that." "I was told to be flexible," I said. "So I adjusted." Silence stretched, not strategic, uncomfortable. "Can you just come back?" he asked. For now. The phrase that had kept me quiet for years. "I can consult," I said. "If it's formal and scoped." He exhaled sharply. "We don't have time for that." The inspector did. At 30:21, the authority intervention became unmistakable. A written notice, a deadline, a requirement that the responsible party be identified and present for follow-up. Controls shifted, not dramatically, but irrevocably. Processes snapped into place where improvisation used to live. My uncle called again, slower this time. "What do you need?" he asked. I told him. Clear terms. Role defined. Access restored. Reporting line clarified. No speeches. No emotional inventory. There was a pause while he processed the fact that flexibility, once withdrawn, had a price. "Okay," he said finally. By 4:30, I was back in the building, not in my old office. That door stayed closed. I sat in a conference room with glass walls and neutral light. Temporary but real. The inspectors addressed me directly. Not warmly. Respectfully. We moved through the backlog with the efficiency that comes from familiarity. Files aligned. Explanations held. The tension receded without applause. No one thanked me. They didn't need to. My uncle stood at the edge of the room, quieter than I'd ever seen him. Authority hadn't stripped him of power. It had clarified where it stopped. When we finished, he gestured toward the hallway. "We'll talk," he said. "Later," I replied. And meant it. I packed my box again before leaving. Some things stayed unpacked on purpose. Nothing exploded after that. There was no apology scene. No redemption arc. The system absorbed the lesson the way systems do, by adjusting. I didn't regain dominance. I regained shape. They stopped calling me flexible. They started calling me necessary. Those words sound similar until you feel the difference in your body.